something that I found fascinating, and I think that this is a topic that I would love to have a conversation with you about and find out what you think also or what you're doing. Do you ever self-censor? Have you noticed that you self-censor more, particularly since 9/11, than you did before? There's a couple of different pieces to this I want to share with you. Just as a story, as an anecdote. The the year 9/11 happened in September of 2001. And that November, so it was 2 months later, a little more than, 2.5 months later, Louise and I we were living in Vermont at the time, and my dad and mom were still alive. And I have three younger brothers who all live in Michigan. And my dad and mom live there. And so Louise and I drove out to Lansing to visit everybody for Thanksgiving, as we did pretty much every year when my parents were alive. And it was really, Louise still talks about this. We were sitting in a restaurant. I think it was a Denny's. And if it wasn't a Denny's, it was one of those Denny's clones that are kind of ubiquitous in Michigan. And people around us were talking about 9/11 and about security and about Democrats and Republicans. And they were just like parroting all this. I mean, Bush was talking about invading Afghanistan. I believe at that point he was still talking about it. He might have already started. But it was on everybody's mind. I had just come back from I'd been in Australia 4 months earlier, and I had just come back from Argentina. And in fact, I wrote an op-ed for Common Dreams. It's still up over there. I mean, it's years old. But I wrote an op-ed about this, how this person in Argentina said to me, we have seen the shock doctrine here. You just wait. Bush is going to use this as a way to make trillions for his buddies and his cronies, and you guys are going to be in a war. And they were right. I mean, they had been through the Falklands, I think. That's Argentina, isn't it? Or is that Chile? That's Argentina, yeah. And so we found ourselves not talking about these things because we just didn't want to get in a barroom brawl in a Denny's. Because everybody's emotions were so raw. But now it's in the 13 years since then, life has really changed dramatically in America. And I don't know if you've seen the movie The Lives of Others. And if you haven't, I'm guessing it's available on, the usual suspects, Netflix, Amazon, whatever. It was a movie made about life in East Germany back when East Germany, or in East Berlin, back when East Berlin and East Germany were what they were. And it's the story of just, of this guy who's he spies on his neighbors. That's what he does for a living. It's what something like 20% of the population did for a living. And his neighbors are having a life and he's not, and he kind of starts living his life vicariously through them. And it's really a brilliant, brilliant movie. It's in German, it's subtitled in English. And it's about the banality of the whole, state thing. And the way that people were destroyed in this surveillance state of East Germany and East Berlin wasn't that somebody would say something like, I think that, the prime minister, East German prime minister is a thug or something like that. Or, it wasn't that they march into your apartment goose stepping. It was that good jobs were just not available to you. Nice apartments were just not available to you. Good educational opportunities for your kids, harder to get. And you look at the United States, and around the time that Louise and I were in Michigan for that Thanksgiving dinner, it's around the time that Bill Maher lost his show on ABC because he had the temerity to say that the guys who flew their planes into the the towers on 9/11 were, as misguided and wrong as it was, were showing personal courage, or at least a commitment to their cause, let's say. Although I think he used the word courage. That's what got him nailed, or some synonym of it. And that Phil Donahue, who had the #1 rated show on MSNBC, was fired from MSNBC along with Jeff Cohen, his producer, because they were talking about, we don't want no stinking war. Now comes this piece. This was Diane Ravitch's blog, The Education Expert. And she's talking about the data mining industry and how it's growing and metastasizing. She points out Newton, Knewton, which got $105 million in venture capital, and InBloom, which got over $100 million in venture capital from the Gates Foundation. These are companies that say, for students who are less than 5 years old or 5 years old, we will provide you with free access to educational materials. Just give us all your information. So basically, they come up with what Diane Ravitch describes as, quote, a lengthy profile containing personal information, socioeconomic status, and other data that is mined for patterns and insights to improve performance. For students, these click streams and data trails begin when they are only 5 years old, barely able to read, much less type in usernames and passwords. But, if they track these kids over the course of their lifetime, they've got everything they need to sell them things, to identify, it's not just the surveillance state, it's the surveillance corporation. I find myself from time to time, it's like the airport syndrome, right? You don't make bomb jokes in the airport line. Well, is anybody really speaking bluntly anymore at all?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Are we all self-censoring at times? And are we doing it because we think maybe our phone's microphone is turned on and we don't know about it? Or is it just a new habit?